Hi, I'm Rusty Gowland. I'm the president of the Black Lake Preservation Society, and I'm happy to be delivering to you the 2019 video newsletter for this winter. And in this newsletter, I'm going to go through with you the plans that we have in each of our active programs, those being lake level management, invasive species prevention, shoreline stewardship, and water quality monitoring. So, spoiler alert, the plan is very ambitious, and the scope and the pace and how much work we can get done is directly dependent on how much time and energy and funding you can offer. So give a listen and go to our website. Everything you need is right there at blacklakepreservationsociety.org. You can go to the contact menu item and let us know of your volunteer interests, or the membership item to renew your membership or join for the first time, or contribute funding directly to any of the programs that I'm about to describe. Program, Lake Level Management. In 2018, we were pretty pleased with what we achieved. We put a good protocol in place, and it resulted in the best effort at compliance, the closest to compliance with court-ordered lake levels that we've seen in the 30 years that we have data for, the 30 years of operation of the hydroelectric power plant. And in a year with higher than normal precipitation, we had a lot of rain in November. We brought the lake down far enough that even though we had a late spring and a really big snow late in the year that shot the lake level up, we started low enough that even though the increase was large enough that if we started where we started in 2016 when the thaw occurred, we would have had equal or even greater damage to our shoreline, but we entered it low enough that we had room for the spring thaw last year. So we felt pretty good about that. We debriefed the year with a data analysis of all of the variables that affect lake drainage, and we made a good case for keeping that protocol in place indefinitely. And the year was called a test, and we would say we passed the test. But unexplainably, really, and unexpectedly, the rest of the shareholder group, that being Sheboygan County, the DEQ, the DNR, and even the BLA, they sided with the dam operation as opposed to the BLPS. So their take was that we could ease the restriction and place more risk on the property owners, and that is an equitable outcome of the test, even though our analysis showed that following the protocol actually improves business results at the same time as offering better protection against landowners. So we find ourselves in a dispute resolution process with FERC. Our position is that the court-ordered levels that were achieved before we had a hydro plant in place, and it was just a dam to manage lake levels, and that the public is now subsidizing the hydroelectric plant business by taking on the risk and allowing them to not make valid attempts to maintain the court-ordered levels through the winter. So our take is, even if you can't operate the plant profitably, that doesn't mean you ease those restrictions. It means you don't run the hydroelectric plant. And by the way, we think you can operate it very effectively and come close to compliance. So we're in the unfortunate situation of asking our members to help us seed a legal defense fund in case the dispute resolution doesn't go our way and we have to go to the courts to get the right level of protection for property owner interests. But that's where we are. And if you can help us, that's what we're raising money for this year. The second program is invasive species prevention. And again, we feel pretty good about our achievements in initiating the conversation about how invasive species spread to Black Lake and all the other lakes, and leveraging some of the knowledge and capability from across the whole state. So the rest of the state knows that most of the stuff gets in the lake through boats and trailers that move between lakes. And we're only talking about that now since BLPS initiated the conversation. And we're happy with how that conversation is going. We're going to repeat the clean, drain, dry education at the state park and the boat landing blitz. Those have both been successful and fun. We're going to maintain the information that we posted at the road end boat launches, and our feedback has been positive on those smaller, unattended boat launches around the lake and the tributaries, primarily on county land. We've had some trouble with the eradication of the invasive weeds, and these spread from pieces of roots and seeds that move in wind and current in the lake. And our problem has been getting the property owner's permission to treat the plants, addressing the public's aversion to the use of harsh chemicals to get rid of these very dangerous plants, and then building the army of people required to kind of get on top of this and establish an ongoing program that we can maintain in future years. So this year we've been working with Huron Pines Conservancy, and they are, we're together defining a new strategic offering for them, and sort of piloting it with the Black Lake Preservation Society. And in this offering, the goal is to prevent properties from getting to the point where they're overrun by invasive species, but catching it early and having inexpensive and effective and very localized use of chemicals and a small, quick hit, targeted response, so we don't have the big problem that requires tens of thousands of dollars and harsh chemicals broadly broadcast with sprays. We want to avoid that. So we have secured about 50% of the cost of this project in grants, but we still are going to need up to $5,000 from our membership if we're to be able to execute this program this year and set a precedent for how we're going to stay on top of this in the future. We're looking for some team leaders. If you can join us, there'll be some training, and we're going to conduct a little picnic and work with property owners to get their permission and give them an understanding of the risks that they face in the process that we're proposing to go through. And the process involves 3 different approaches. So we can pull some of the loose strife where it's sort of sparse in a field. We're going to release beetles, and we're going to do it in 2 pilot areas and release a community of beetles to see if we can beat down the presence of purple loosestrife in some larger plots. And we're going to have careful application of chemicals on the Phragmites. And I can only assure you that Phragmites is very difficult to remove, because if you try to pull the weed, it leaves the rhizomes that spread multiple copies of the weed. If you pull it, the seeds get loose and they start flying around and floating around. And really the only thing you can do is carefully apply chemicals just to the strand of the plant. Those chemicals get drawn into the roots and it kills the whole plant top to bottom. So it's unfortunate, but that is the only way to treat it. And to be most respectful of the harsh chemicals that are in use, you have to treat it when the stand is small, because you don't want to be spraying that stuff around where there's potentially moving stormwater, which is a primary way that the plants move. So if you can volunteer to be part of this training group, if you can help us fund it, if we don't raise $5,000, we may be trying to raise $50,000 in the future when we have bigger problems. So we're excited about a strategic relationship that is forming with Huron Pines on this problem, and hope you can help us. The program is we're continuing the shoreland stewardship, and as you may recall, The centerpiece is the self-assessment survey created by the Michigan Shoreland Stewards, and this is being broadly used across the state. Go to our website and look under our lake, property owner responsibility and preservation, and you'll see the list of all of the associations that are involved in this, and it is quite lengthy, and the BLPS is proud to be on that list. This may be our most impactful offering because we have the most control over change because it's our property and we have ultimate control over what we can do. And since the water quality is just a reflection of how we treat the upland in the watershed, and the most important upland is right at the shoreline, this becomes a really critical project. And anyone that takes the survey, you're going to come up with ideas that you say, yeah, you know what, I can do that. That's no problem. And in fact, I kind of like the idea. I had that response from taking the survey, and most of the other people I've talked to that have taken it have. So we haven't had satisfactory take-up, and I'd just like to ask you to go to the website and take that survey. And when you do, register as a member of the Black Lake Preservation Society so we can count the take-up, we can monitor the take-up of it. Nobody's looking at your answers. It's not available to us. Nobody knows what your score was. We're just interested in knowing how many stewards do we have. And you're going to get a plate that you can display to show that you are a steward. And we hope that that helps take up. We'll also be training some local marine contractor, a marine contractor, and some landscaping services, so they can be certified in sustainable practices near the shoreline. And we're going to offer a workshop with a resource from Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council that is an expert with native plant strategies for the shoreline that are both beautiful and effective in protecting your shoreline. Now, if you take the survey and you go through the process of making a change or two and you retake the survey, if you've registered, then you'll be able to go back to your old responses and see if you could change one or two. And if you do, then you go to the next level of steward, and we're going to give you a free drone-based video product that displays, that presents your property from above, and it'll be a really beautiful a takeaway for you that I think you'll be proud of, and we're happy to offer that to people that really engage in the process and learn from the survey and go back and retake it. So go to the website and become part of that stewardship group. Fourth program area is water quality monitoring, and we're wrapping up the tributary study, and that report will be due in March. And we've never studied the upstream areas except the Upper Black, but the 6 other streams have never been studied, so we'll have new information about what we're inheriting from groundwater flows from farms and from golf courses and logging areas and roads and septic systems, and we'll see if there is a cause for going upstream and figuring out strategies for diverting some of that water to help it soak, more of that contaminated water to help it soak into the ground before it goes into our tributaries. So that's the process. We're just starting with that study due in March. The second study is swimmer's itch, and this one is going to be a plan where the approach that we've come up with is from the Swimmer's Itch Partnership. Very broad take up across the state, a very successful program. But it requires 1 year of studying exactly what species are involved. There's a parasite that moves between a snail and a waterfowl, and that parasite can be one of many different species depending on the species of snail and waterfowl involved in this exchange. So we're going to need some volunteers to to go out and gather some water samples and find some snails and maybe take pictures and identify the waterfowl species. So if you can help us, sign up a little bit of your time. We'll give you the right type of training. It's a very small commitment to us, and we think that you'll enjoy it. And then next year we'll be able to target the waterfowl species with the right type of vaccination, the right type of treatment to eliminate that parasite. And we're actually going to, treat them and release them, and see if we can break that cycle of the parasite. So that study is going to cost $6,000. We are securing half of that money in a grant. So again, being very careful with our members' funds, and we still need a fair bit of volunteer time and contributed funds if we're to execute the Swimmer's Itch program. So if this is something that concerns you, if you're affected by it, sign up your kids, and help us gather the information and get started on fixing the problem. So that's our plan for the year. What's not in the plan is we can't get to the septic health program because we don't have anyone to lead it. We don't have anyone to lead the local government interface to put in the prescribed protections at the township and county level. We don't have anyone leading the development of the land trust collection, and with recent legislation that slashes protections on wetlands. And remember, wetlands are the way that water gets from surface water into groundwater. It turns the bad stuff into good stuff. And the more water that gets infiltrated and arrives in the lake through the ground, the healthier our lake is. As the ground draws nutrients, it cools the water, the microbes take care of bacteria and toxins. So you have to have the right mix of groundwater and surface water. So that's going to make it harder, and we have to introduce our own private permanent protections of the wetlands to keep our lake clean. And then finally, the marine studies. So what changes is the lake going through? Zebra mussels disrupted the food chain. What's happening with zebra mussels? Seems like they're kind of reducing in numbers. Like to understand why. What critical resource are they running out of? And what does that mean with fish species and the whole food chain in the lake? What changes can we expect? So if you're able to step up and lead any of those 4 programs, we can add those to the BLPS for next year, and we can start making plans this year if you think you'd like to help us with those. So we think it's going to be a great season. We hope we have plenty of support from you, and everything you need is at the website. More information about these programs is there under the projects menu. So thanks for listening and learning and being part of our conversation and sharing our goals. I hope you have a fun and active winter. Hope you're able to enjoy all the seasons around Black Lake, and I look forward to seeing you on the water next summer.